Remember, it's important to always review the charts you intend to use for a given instrument flight. Planning and preparation before taking off will make you a safer and more competent instrument pilot. Now that we have reviewed Jeppesen approach charts, let's take a look at airport charts found in your airway manual. When you're in the air, you have plenty of chart references to help you locate your position in reference to the ground. But once you're on the ground at an airport, orientation can become a challenge, especially at an unfamiliar airport. Therefore, Jeppesen publishes airport charts, which are valuable sources of information and can aid in the reduction of surface movement collisions. Usually, you will find the airport chart on the reverse side of the first approach chart for each airport. As you will notice, the airport chart is laid out in a manner similar to the Jeppesen approach charts. The general layout can be broken down into the following 5 major sections: heading, communications, airport plan view, additional runway information, and takeoff and alternate minimums. Some airport charts published for larger airports span 2 pages. As with the Dallas Love Field chart, the primary diagram is on the front, and additional information about runways and lighting is shown on the back. Let's take a closer look at the heading information. In the heading section, on the far right side of the chart, is the city and state in which the airport is located, the name of the airport, and the airport reference point as defined by longitude and latitude. The chart index number and chart date, or the effective chart date, are under the Jeppesen logo. On the far left, you will see the 4-letter ICAO identifier, the airport elevation, and the bearing and distance to the airport from a VOR DME or VORTAC within 40 nautical miles. The next section on the chart is the communications row. This design is similar to the one found on the approach charts in that all frequencies are shown in the order in which they are most commonly used. In this case, they are shown in the order used for departure. On the far left side of the communications row, the ATIS frequency for the airport is listed. Note that in the ATIS box, a small note says VOT 113.3. This tells you that a VOR test signal is available over the listed frequency. Following the ATIS frequency is a listing for ACARS and TWIP. This indicates that an electronic data link is available through the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, commonly referred to as ACARS. The service provided is the Terminal Weather Information for Pilots System, or TWIP, which delivers terminal weather information to the cockpit. Following this service are listings for clearance delivery, ground control, and tower frequencies. The last box in the communication row contains the regional departure frequencies. If an R is noted after the departure frequency, radar is available. The plan view on the airport chart depicts a diagram of the airport, including the runways, taxiways, and buildings. The scale of the charts varies, so a bar scale is provided to indicate diagram dimensions. Longitude and latitude tick marks are printed along the 4 sides of the plan view. This helps you determine your exact location if your aircraft is equipped with a lat-long-based navigation system. The airport diagram depicts the layout of runways and taxiways. To avoid confusion, the runways are shown in black, while taxiways and ramp areas are printed in gray. The runway number, the runway elevation, and when available, the exact runway magnetic bearing are depicted on the ends of the runways. There are several symbols included in the plan view to help better orient you with the airport environment. These symbols include a bar across the runway, indicating a displaced threshold. If an approach lighting system is installed, a symbol showing the lighting array appears next to the specific runway. When appropriate, taxiways are also labeled with letter designators. Notice that taxiway Charlie parallels runway 13 right and 31 left. Positions of windsocks are marked, as well as blast fences and building locations. Also included on the plan view are roads, railroad tracks, and obstructions such as trees, buildings, and towers. The Airport Reference Point, abbreviated ARP, shows the intersection of the geographical coordinates published for the airport. Keep in mind that an ARP may not be designated for every airport. A complete description of each symbol used on the chart can be found in the approach chart legend. The additional runway information section presents more detailed information than can be shown on the plan view. Typically, this information would be shown on the lower portion of the chart. In the case of Dallas Love, however, this information is shown on a separate page because of the sheer amount of information available. This section includes a listing of each runway with its lighting systems, including VASI or related systems, and whether the runway is grooved. Also included are the usable lengths of the runways beyond the threshold and beyond the point abeam the glide slope transmitter to the end of the runway. The usable takeoff distance is also provided if the runway takeoff length is restricted. In this case, the takeoff is not restricted. Information regarding land and hold short distances and other pertinent LASO information is also printed in this section if LASO operations are conducted at the airport. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport does conduct LASO operations as depicted on this chart. The last column shows the width of the runways. The bottom portion of this section identifies special runway information if applicable. This information is noted by ball flags in the runway column. The last section of the airport chart shows the takeoff and alternate minimums. Obstacle departure procedures are specified if applicable. The specific departure procedure for each runway is contained in a textual format. Within this section, the standard and lower than standard takeoff minimums for individual runways or groupings of runways are shown for commercial operators and air carriers. For example, the STD column under each grouping reflects the standard takeoff minimums prescribed in the FARs for aircraft with 1 or 2 engines, or for aircraft with more than 2 engines. Remember, if you're operating under Part 91, you are not required to comply with the published IFR takeoff minimums. However, you should realize these minimums have been established for the operation of commercial aircraft. Therefore, it is wise to comply with the standard minimums. Also bear in mind that the publication of lower than standard minimums does not authorize use by a given commercial operator. To be able to use the lower minimums, commercial operators must obtain approval in their operation specifications. At Alliance Airport in Fort Worth, Texas, if the centerline lights and runway centerline markings are available on runway 16 left and 34 right, some operators can take off with as little as 600 RVR, providing there are at least 2 out of 3 operational transmissometers. The next column, entitled Adequate Visual Reference, is another lower than standard category that may be permitted for some operators. What this means is that you must have a visual reference that allows you to continuously identify the takeoff surface and maintain directional control throughout the takeoff run. This is usually provided by runway markings or lighting. In addition to visual requirements for takeoffs, some airports require a minimum climb capability. Notice that at Dallas Love, in order to take off on 13 left or 13 right, you must be able to maintain a minimum climb rate of at least 280 feet per nautical mile until reaching 1,600 feet. The alternate airport weather minimums are published on the chart and may be shown either on the far right side of the chart or on the bottom of the chart below the takeoff minimums. These minimums are listed only when the airport may be used as an alternate on your flight plan. When the airport is not authorized as an alternate, the notation NA appears in the box, as is the case for Spinks Airport in Fort Worth.